So this is my second Scorch Clan Blitz game, and I've only done 2 VODs so far. So, oh, I should have checked the compositions first. That's my bad. I want to do it outside of the game, so I'm gonna go ahead and reset this real fast. Sorry about that. Okay, so I saw these are some like funky comps. So starting off, we have the enemy team. I tend to like to look at first. Uh, Again, this is Scorch Clan Blitz. We have a single crab, Wavebreaker, which is pretty good around like choke right before basket for both defense and offense. So I actually like that pick. Torpedo's also okay for pressuring snipe from mid. We have a V Junior, which generally at a high level I wouldn't really say is valuable in at least like this current meta, just due to double or triple crab. At lower skill tiers, they tend to be quite a bit more potent, just because a lot of people just don't shred bubbler fast enough. The ink brush is actually pretty interesting. I kind of actually like it too. So one thing that the ink brush is pretty good at here is since you only have one crab, you can opt to either, let's say like you're pushing up, you can opt to either take the crab across Great Bridge to kind of like open up the basket to properly push and hold control, or you can just go even faster if you don't have crab up and use ink brush on the left side. Now it wouldn't necessarily get the kills, but having a pretty consistent whale to go perpendicular to like where the enemy team is positioning is pretty good, because it effectively peels all the enemies off of snipe, off of the basket, and forces them either forwards or backwards relative to the pushing team. But secondly, it's very fast across the Great Bridge and makes a pretty good like a skirmishing tool. So like if people rush the brush is pretty safe, even though it can't necessarily fight from the angle it's at. Overall, I'm not crazy about the comp, just because I think it lacks too much kill power. If you're gonna have an ink brush, you need weapons that can actually reliably play around it in such a way that it can kill. So like ink brush not is way better than this. Even ink brush like Forge Pro or Gluga. Now these aren't comps I'd recommend at a higher level, but the general idea is like they have high range, high kill power. Okay, maybe not Forge, but also like it's a very good like crossfire utility. Yeah. As for your comp, it's quite a bit better. You still have the funky junior, which again at this skill level, like I guess it's fine. Gluga is actually pretty good here. My only problem with Gluga is that its paint is pretty bad. So if you're going to have a weapon, I just realized you had triple Booyah Bomb. If you're gonna have a weapon that needs to play off of Booyah Bomb, which in this case you have an abundance of, so it's not that big a problem. Typically you wouldn't go Gluga, but having the wall and having kind of like a more defensive panic Gluga or panic Booyah to play off of makes Gluga pretty good here. And the rolls also help, as I was saying with the ink brush, help cross Great Bridge. So it actually is a pretty good pick here. I actually kind of like that a lot. Forge Pro, I'm not as big a fan of. Better paint than Gluga, generally speaking, because of the bomb, which leads to faster booyahs, which leads to more paint, etc. But overall, I think your composition is just really, really just lacking in paint. And putting Gluga is okay. It'll hurt like your team overall in terms of paint. But then you throw a Forge in there, and it's like, okay, now your team just really, really struggles to push up quickly. It's a very, very like slow composition, and in the current meta, that's not really something you want, especially when you're fighting against crabs that you have to play faster than in order to actually keep them from mowing you down, right? The last one's Machine, which it's by far the fastest like Booyah spammer here. Pretty consistent. In neutral, you can lob shots over like into snipe, past basket. Just really good pick overall, especially with Fizzy Swim. Anyway, let's get into the game. So what I generally look for, it is positioning. It is like what kind of fights you're taking, if you're taking them as a team. But I also kind of want to get an idea of what your win condition is. Now it's kind of interesting with running triple of one special. Is your win condition, if it's centered around using your specials, which typically in Splatoon it is, you make your team play a lot more one-dimensional, which is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it makes you like very predictable and very one-dimensional, right? Like if the enemy catches on, they'll understand when booyahs are going to come out, where they want to be, etc. On the other hand, if you're an up-and-coming team, having that very one-dimensional style of play will help you improve a lot faster, as long as it's not used as a crutch. In this case, I don't think it would be. But just getting a very, very consistent, if you have a booyah, you know exactly where it can be. Your whole team can understand it. You would know, like, basically play off of like rotating your specials. It's pretty good. So I do like your comp quite a bit better than theirs. So there's that going for you. Let's see what's going on. So there's a lot of clumping here. I generally like to see, especially on a map like this, teams that spread out. I don't actually... This went by so fast. I don't know why they jumped out. So they effectively, in an effort not to die, just kind of gave you mid for free. So I'm very curious what happened here. The splash drops and then just jumps out. Interesting. So both teams are effectively kind of keeping to themselves, keeping very like clumped up, not really spreading out. You have a 3-1 stack here, which is to be I guess clear. By that I mean the junior being on the left and then you three on the right. Doesn't seem like anything's happening off of this. Generally speaking, if you see somebody jump out, it's effectively a death. So that's an opportunity where it's like you can risk pushing aggressively and trading, because let's say you get a kill, you're still up 3-2. So when somebody like jumps out or somebody goes down, that's like your key opportunity. Even if you don't have a special, push up, gain ground, gain specials, and then continue to steamroll. It's just unfortunate that that wasn't punished, and then by the time the splash comes back, you get punished for it, and you don't have any ground that you could have potentially taken in that process, or in the process. But they died of bombs, so there's that. Ooh, and they died with 2 specials too, so that's like extra bad. Just very, very passive play. This is partially, I feel, due to like not really just being an aggressive team, but also the composition. You have a lot of weapons that don't want to just rush in and take space with like Forge and Gluga. Well, Gluga can, but it's a little dangerous if you don't have like a full ink tank. But all this is just opportunity where you can start taking space and like picking people off here for just kind of like sitting in mid, because right now it's like an ink brush, it's a junior, nothing can really fight you guys. You kind of just like win these fights outright, especially on machine. Yeah, this is really good play from the Forge here. I like that a lot. Now this bubble comes out a little bit too preemptively. Generally speaking, if you pop a bubble, you can think of it as like a splash ball, right? So that bubble comes out, and if you pass the outside of the bubble, you risk death, especially against like a junior, like look at their comp. They have basically like 2.5 lethals with the like a junior that always has a bomb ready. So popping it, let's say you wanted to pop it for objective, popping it in a situation where you can like sit near it or behind it, like inside or behind it, to score would probably be like quite a bit better, rather than putting it on the choke and then preventing your entire team from actually crossing because of that. At least crossing safely. Now in this case, it doesn't seem to matter too much. Primarily like because the junior was just respawning and the brush died like just a second before. However, you still don't really get value out of it just because, again, your comp is very, very slow. So you do get the score here. Again, this is just Glooga being pretty good. This is another reason why I think like focusing, pushing one person, just at least one person left over the Great Bridge while you're trying to push is good. It would avoid a situation in which you get pincered by this ink brush. Although in this situation, the ink brush can't really push you, so it works out here. Good scores. Once you run out of ink, now you're going to want to play for space. So you're going to want to like get the Glooga up a little bit towards like where that purple is, just above them, relative to the map, in an effort to pull aggro away from the basket. So for example, if the custom junior sees an opportunity to dive the enemy team like through basket, they would go for the machine but be forced to give your back to the Glooga basically. But in a situation like this, actually, it does kind of work just because it is a custom junior. Again, their comp is just not very good. But generally speaking, the Glooga and machine are a little bit too close to each other to the point where one can trade with both. And in these kind of matches, it's just so difficult to predict what actually happens. Inkbrush just dives to kind of stagger themselves. You do get the pick though, and that kind of shows what I mean. So like the Inkbrush opts to fight the machine and frees up objective space in the process, which gives more opportunity to score. However, it didn't seem like you had clams, so, or at least enough clams to matter. So you go back to neutral anyway. Good punish on the overextension there. This is there's so much just like passive play where this ink brush has been overextended this entire time, and they're not necessarily at a flank angle either. These are like the kind of situations where even if you trade, right? Let's say two of you just dive this guy, right? Even if you trade, the trade is still in your favor. So right now, even though technically you're playing defense, right? When you trade, it's not 50-50. The one who needs to take space, the one who needs to push out, is the one that doesn't want to trade. So if the ink brush pushes up here, you kill the ink brush, and the splash on the enemy team kills the person who killed the ink brush. The enemy team still can't push you. They could try, right? But you have way more map control, and they still need specials in order to push out, whereas you don't need specials in order to do so. So in this case, let's say they trade, they lose their whale, and they have bubble and they have crab still, right? But you also have bubble and you have map control. So what exactly are they capable of doing now if they lose like one of their specials that they had in terms of advantage? But instead, you kind of opt to, you get scared of the ink brush, rotate around to keep them from rushing your guys down instead of just straight up pincering them. And then you just give up all of this space in the process. So now the ink brush just runs in, doesn't die, and then you give up all of the left side as a result. Even though there were no kills on the table there. And again, this is in part due to your composition. I generally don't like playing more than one slow weapon on a comp. So for example, if you have an E-liter, you would run like 3 really fast, like either 2 shooters and pretty much like a Splatana or like a Wiper or something like that, dualies. But in this case, you have 3 slow weapons and a junior. Which can be problematic in cases like this where you want to take a head-on fight just directly, but all of your weapons struggle in terms of mobility and in terms of really just if you want to take a fight, you have to commit to it in a way. And all of this space was given for no reason. I do actually appreciate that when enemy specials come out, you guys respected it, right? A lot of teams just kind of like fight into the specials and try to just brute force their way through. Playing in a way where it's like, okay, we understand that we're at a disadvantage, although you guys were at an advantage. The concept, I think, works. Now this Booyah's pretty okay. It typically, when you use Booyah, it's to either initiate a push or to like cancel another special, namely Crab or Bubbler. In this case, I don't think, Crab wasn't even up. And you used 2 Booyahs. Oh my goodness. So Booyah's value starts and ends with the immediate effects that it has. So if you're playing for paint, for example, or rather if you Booyah for paint, the paint itself won't really matter 2 seconds later, right? Because it gets painted over like literally as it's landing. What does matter is like the smoke screen and the paint effect to help your team like push up through the Booyah bomb, to separate the enemy team so that your team can like get a pick on somebody who's forced to, well, basically separate, right? Or go out of position. Or to shred a crab or something like that, right? In this case, your first Booyah was potentially okay, but it didn't have any sort of follow-up to make the Booyah bomb matter, right? So all that really happened is you stalled an already slow team, although they have a fast composition, they're playing slow, an already slow team to just play a little bit slower, to like wait a couple seconds. Whereas that's something that could have been converted into like a double kill right off the bat because of how clumped everybody is. The only problem is that you didn't have anybody to actually play off of that Booyah bomb, right? Oh my, you used 3 Booyah bombs. Okay. And the third one at least gets a kill. You literally covered a third of the map in paint with Booyah bombs. Okay, fortunately you were able to pick up kills off of that. Typically you don't want to chain too many specials together at the same time. The reason being, once they're down, if the enemy team survives it, you're at a huge special disadvantage, right? So they kind of made that mistake, the mistake early on here, where they just didn't rush you when you gave them free space. But also, the fact that they died to the Booyah bombs are kind of ridiculous, considering that none of you like pushed into them. And I guess that really, we see the same kind of bubbler here. So the bubbler is okay in this scenario because you can use it to confirm the kill on the junior. However, the junior is already overextended. The junior on your team can stay alive, right? But this is something that the Glugga the machine, the Forge Pro can already do. It can already get this kill around this choke like for free. So investing the bubbler here, if it doesn't get shredded, limits the movement options of your team at this point, because the second you pass by, you get bombed, right? Seems you just go for fast scores. And again, it's just another moment where you want somebody in mid to cross over bridge. At this point, it was kind of just like a cheese score. You kind of just rushed through it. You didn't really have specials, so I wouldn't expect you guys to be able to maintain control here. So I do appreciate that you score the 2 and then half of you back up. That was pretty good. I really hope the Gluggas are able to I hope they don't take this fight directly and wait for the Forge Pro. But it looks like they just win it outright anyway. You guys are just kind of better than this team, but I'm sorry to say it. There's just not really too much happening. I do like the Booyah Bomb to separate the Ink Brush, who overextended quite a bit. And then you pick up a kill off of that. It's pretty good because then it prevents the Custom Junior and I guess, is it the Splash, I think, from like actually supporting the team. So, not bad. I'm not really talking about the enemy team, but the Ink Brush play was kind of unfortunate there. Don't understand the Booyah Bomb. And it's the same deal. Like these Booyah Bombs, it's like the Booyah Bomb itself doesn't go for the kill. It's your team that needs to play off of that. So like maybe you'll get a pick or two, but it's not a consistent way to play as you get better at the game. You see how trying to deal with that flank completely opened you up to the right side? Or I guess the top side from this point of view. All the Booyah Bombs. And now, like, let's say they survived that and just one person died to get basket open. What's to stop them from just steamrolling you with like 2 or 3 specials right now? Because now you have weapons that don't farm Booyah Bomb, and then you just keep throwing them at the same time. Like, definitely try to space them out. Use one Booyah Bomb, follow up with your weapons. Use your second Booyah Bomb, follow up with your weapons. Then use your third Booyah Bomb, follow up with your weapons. Space them out over the course of like 3, 4, 5 seconds in between each one. And that goes for everything as well. Not just your Booyah Bombs, but if you have like the double crab Booyah, whale or something like that, right? Try to like stagger your specials. That way you get more control over a longer period of time. This is one more thing I think is kind of important. So right now you guys are playing very, very scared. You guys do have special advantage right now. So even though you're winning because you're holding a clam and the enemy team doesn't have one on hand right now, you guys are getting passive special generation. This is a time where you want to build all your specials, but also you want to use them before the enemy team. Not all of them, of course, as we've gone over, but you want to do enough to prevent them from getting their specials. So Right now they'll have, okay, well, he died. Okay. It's hard to predict this kind of stuff in a game like this. Um, Generally, a splash who's really close to crab right before overtime is going to be saving for their crab, right? They're going to be in position right now. You're going to have your junior's going to have bubble, blah, 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 right? They're going to be playing towards their win condition and they're going to do it like hastily. If you sit back like you guys are right now, what you're doing is all of mid right now is going completely uncontested. So what's going to happen is they're just going to walk up, paint everything that's orange right now, get all their specials, and just run over you. And if they don't run over you immediately, let's say you have all your specials, you're effectively leaving it up 50-50, right? What specials win? Like, who wins the team fight? You don't really know when you have 4 specials on either side, right? And they have all the map control in mid. So what you want to do is invest 1 special to get a pick, because the pick, again, even if it's a trade, right? It matters more for the purple team because the purple team is the one that needs to push, right? Very good booyah there. It was fairly straightforward, but there were a lot of mistakes going on, and I kind of just don't want to overwhelm with all of those like smaller ones. So I think just those like 2 to 3 like bigger, I guess around 3 like bigger concepts might be of more use to try to like work on than anything smaller than that. But yeah, I hope this works out. I'm just gonna do the one game for my own sanity's sake. I also have like a lot of other replays to do and record. So I hope this helps, and good luck.